Yeah, you just saw a very nice talk of Alina about FinTech, so now there's going to be a second one about FinTech. It's not so much about financial data, but it's not so much about the technical terms behind it. More about what will change right now and what will be possible in the future. So the biggest change will actually, as I will discuss later, is everything is based on a new regulatory called PSD2. I don't want to go too much into detail about the regulatory, but that's the basement for all the change, what will happen. First of all, just a few words about myself so you understand why I'm standing here and talking about the topic. My name is Lars Markull. You can also find me on Twitter. And I'm from a FinTech startup called Figo. We are based in Hamburg. And the company was founded in 2012. At the beginning, a very straight B2C approach. But then at the end of 2013, beginning of 2014, we realized in the B2B approach, there's so much more potential. So now we describe ourselves as a banking service provider. And basically what you offer is an API which allows everyone, a developer, a startup, a bank, to access financial data and make use of it. So we're the layer between financial data in the old world and new innovative services. So before talking about what is going to change in the future and why it's going to be a big change, let's take a look back in the past, how we banked in the past. So you can see here on the left-hand side the online banking users who are obviously very sad. They have multiple banking connections, have different banks, credit cards, whatsoever, but they only have one login for every service and can only use these financial data in one service of the bank. So when the one bank they have their account with have a shitty online banking, they cannot do anything about it. In the past, they had to use it because there was no way to put the financial data somewhere else. The banks, on the other hand, at that time were pretty happy because they felt like they have full control about the customer, about the financial data. The bank knew what was happening, and also a very good thing for the bank at that time was it was a very high entry barrier for any competitors. So at that time, if we look at the landscape of banking, it was very easy for banks. We see here Bank A has a couple of products, Bank B, and there are the customers. In between, there are some comparable products, comparable customer groups. But at the end, very important to understand, in this case, Bank A always knew who am I going to fight against? It's Bank B. And Bank A knew Bank B is also a bank, it's the same structure, same history, same stuff. So it was the competitive landscape was very easy for banks to understand and to act. As I said in the intro, this is going to change now. So the question of if it's a bigger change, don't know if it's going to be the biggest change, but definitely going to be a huge change. And it's completely based on PSD2. PSD2 stands for Payment Service Directive 2 and has different parts in it. And the most important part is a part called access to bank account. What does access to bank account mean? We can see here if we compare to this picture, where it was very straightforward. Now it's getting a little more complex, but if you take a look, it's not that complex. We see here, these are these services the customers are using. These services can be provided by banks, but will be more and more provided by third-party services, such as startups and other innovative companies. The banks here, on the right-hand side, just providing the data. They have the financial data of the customer, but due to PSD2 or more detailed, the access to bank accounts, which is by the European Union here, the European Union is going to establish a new kind of company, which is called a third-party provider. There is, if you remember at the beginning, I was talking a little bit of Figo, about the API layer. That's what we are heading for. A third-party provider who has access to all the financial data and provided to services, which, as I said, could be fintech startups, but also the banks could be on that side and provide a new service. Additionally, we can also take a look into other countries. Here's a good example. I mean, when we're talking about fintech, if you're from fintech, you always know. If you're not from UK, you're always a little bit jealous about the regulators in UK because they're very innovative and trying to set a good landscape for the companies over there. So of course, British banks and British companies will also be affected by PSD2 since it's the whole European Union. However, The UK government is even taking a step further and realized the potential about financial data and what's possible with financial data. So they were actually starting with a call of evidence for the advantages of a banking API, and now they are starting a group, and if I can quote it from the last paper, they say the goal is highlight how customers can have more control over the data and how to create an environment which supports creating value from its usage. So, as I said, PSD2 is affecting the whole European Union. UK is even taking a step further. Yeah, but what does it mean, PSD2 and access to bank account? What does it mean? First of all, for the innovators. Innovators can be FinTech startups. When you're in the FinTech space, you used to see FinTech as a startup, but it could also be innovative players, such as innovative banks or other companies. Of course, what does it mean for them? It's a huge new opportunities for them. They have a new resource now they can use to build the products on top. We have here a nice graphic we at Figo usually use to show what kind of what is possible for financial data. These are all these services are more or less already existing nowadays in Germany, and they're using financial data in some way. Like two of the maybe best ones is algo banking, robo-advising, using financial data, your investments you made, and to take in consideration to make new investments. Or a second tool, account switching tools. So currently it's a huge hassle to change your bank account, right? You need to create a new account, okay, but then you have to transfer all your standing orders, your direct debits, and so on. Nowadays, there are a couple of companies who develop account switching tools. So you just open your new account, you connect your old account, and these services obtain data from the old account. They find your standing orders, they find your direct debits, they find all the companies you pay and you get paid, and they help you to tell these companies that your account number changed. So instead of taking a couple of days to make all these, write these letters and send it, you can just use a tool and it takes 10 minutes. These kind of services wouldn't be able to access financial data, right? This is mandatory for them. But yeah, so it means there's a lot of opportunities for FinTech startups or innovators, but what does it mean for banks? Remember this picture here? It's a landscape of the banking industry in the past, but now something is changing. First of all, a lot of small companies, FinTech startups, are attacking the banks. So they're offering new services, small services, like only one service. A bank offers a dozen of different services and expects or anticipates it's going to be the best product for the customer in every case. These small startups are focusing on one service and make it better. And that's becoming a big problem for the bank, because it's hard if you have 12 different products and you fight against 12 different companies who are just focusing on one company. So there's actually this book from James Haycock. It's called Bye Bye Banks. Bye Bye Banks with a question mark, so it's not a statement, it's a question. And he's painting a rather dark picture for banks if they don't react. And the outcome is it will be happen. They will displace, diminish, and disintermediate it. So what does it mean? Displace is already happening right now. There are new services coming up, and we're testing them, we're trying them. The next step is going to be diminished, or could be diminished, which means we're getting used to these services. We don't even want to use the old banking stuff anymore. We're only using the new innovative stuff. And then the last, in his theory, the last step would be that there will be completely new infrastructure built, so these services will then not access the old data anymore, but there will be new banks, new services, who completely replace the whole infrastructure of the banks. This is a theory, and if you're in FinTech, probably heard it quite often that banks could face it and they have to react. But yes, how should they react? See here a nice picture. There are different things they have to do. For example, PSD2 compliant, of course they have. In 2016, PSD2 is becoming European law. In 2017, it's national law. That's for sure. So they have to do something. The XS2A is the abbreviation for access to bank account. So they also have to comply about that. But besides that, there are many opportunities, and it's very important for the banks to react now and do something. What we see at Figo, as I said, we started with our API in the beginning of last year. Last year with a strong focus over a lot of interaction with FinTech startups. Since a couple of months, it shifted a little, or not shifted, but we were talking to more and more banks. We're still talking to FinTech startups, but more and more banks are contacting us. And why are they contacting us, and why are they talking to us? This is a timeline we're discussing them with them to help them to find the right way for them. And you can see here very often should be proof of concept. So discussing different options, what to do, and the timeline would be usually for them what they are planning to do is developing a proof of concept. Then the next step also do account aggregation, as many other startups will do too. And maybe develop an open API. So there are a couple of banks which we are discussing already with, or we are seeing there in the German banking industry, who want to implement other banks into their service and develop an own API to deliver better information, better data for their own accounts, and then also implement other accounts but with less data, so the customer gets an incentive to change the bank. And yeah, what actually this banking app store is a big topic in FinTech as well. What we do see is that more and more banks getting used to the idea of having something like an app store. And yeah, how could it look like a banking app store with this new layer of PSD2 and access to bank account? Still here the customer on the left-hand side and the bank system on the right-hand side. And here are these services which are in an own environment, like a partner from Figo and the bank, or just by the bank, and the bank can select different services and different partners they feel happy to work with and implement it in their own infrastructure. This is actually already my last slide to show you something. This is a picture if you've seen it before. This is an app store which was developed by a French bank already a couple of years ago. They were developing it. So this was already there a few years ago. But this will, or most likely will, become the normal case for many banks in a couple of years due to this whole change in regulatories and innovative mindset. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the brief talk. I'm happy to answer any question if you have. I hope it was not too much about regulatories and you feel a little more informed about what is going to happen in the FinTech space. Thank you.